Hey! Welcome to episode 2 of Prince iPal Science. It's gonna be great. Hey! Alright, so we have something that's gonna make you go, And Prince iPal is going to read another Robert Munsch story. We have another scientist, science vocabulary. It's gonna be a great episode, episode 2. Enjoy! Scientific word of the day.
Scientists say brainwaves. This word describes patterns of the brain's electrical activity. When the brain's neurons communicate, they fire or make tiny zaps of electricity. Some neurons fire when a person is thinking. Other neurons fire when a person is looking at objects, and still others coordinate motion. Scientists can eavesdrop on brainwaves with sensors that detect electrical activity. The combined electrical activity of all of the brain's neurons creates patterns that look like spikes or waves. Recordings of brainwaves can help scientists connect neural activity with what a person is doing.
Scientific word of the day, brainwaves. On this day in 1992, the space shuttle Endeavour blasted off on its maiden voyage. It was a $2 billion replacement for the Challenger series. On this day in 1990. Scientist of the day is Francis Bacon. He lived from 1561 to 1626. He shook the foundations of Aristotle's scientific influence, popularizing the scientific method, which is what we use here at Innovation Academy. He grounded science in experiments and observations rather than logic-based argument. So he had hard data and proof. And this is Francis Bacon, our scientist. Hi, Prince iPal here talking a little mindset. So, I choose happiness. I'm in charge of how I feel. I choose to be happy. I hope you do the very same thing. Choose happy. It's the best way to be. Are you kidding me? Hi friends, ready to share another one of my favorite stories by Robert Munsch. Mud puddle. Hopefully this summer you'll be able to find some mud puddles, although your parents probably won't want you to. Let's get close here. Julianne's mother bought her new clean clothes. Julianne put on a clean new shirt, buttoned it up the front. She put on clean new pants and buttoned them up the front. And then she walked outside and sat under the apple tree. Sounds pretty uneventful. New clothes, those are cool though. Unfortunately, hiding up in the apple tree, there was a mud puddle. It saw Julianne sitting there and jumped right on her head. She got completely all over muddy. Even her ears were full of mud. That's a lot of mud. Mud in your ears. Julianne ran inside yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, a mud puddle jumped on me!" Her mother picked her up, took off all her clothes, and dropped her into the tub of water. She scrubbed Julianne till she was red all over. She washed out her ears, she washed out her eyes, she even washed out her mouth. Julianne put on a clean new shirt and buttoned up the front. She put on new clean pants and buttoned them up the front. Then she looked at the back door. She couldn't see a mud puddle anywhere, so she walked outside and sat down in her sandbox. The sandbox was next to the house, and hiding on top of the house, there was a mud puddle. It saw Julianne sitting there, and it jumped right on her head. She completely covered all over muddy. Even her nose was full of mud. Ew. Julianne ran inside yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy, a mud puddle jumped on me!" Julianne's mother picked her up, took off all her clothes, and dropped her into the hot water. She scrubbed Julianne till she was red all over. She washed out her ears, washed out her eyes, washed out her mouth, and she even washed out her nose. Julianne put on a clean new shirt and buttoned up the front. She put on clean new pants and buttoned them up the front. And then she had an idea. She reached way back in the closet and got a big yellow raincoat. She's a problem solver. She put it on and walked outside. There was no mud puddle anywhere. So she yelled, "Hey, mud puddle!" And nothing happened. So she yelled even louder, "Hey, mud puddle!" Julianne was standing in the sunshine in her raincoat, getting very hot. She pulled back her hood, nothing happened. So she took off her raincoat. As soon as she took off the raincoat, out from behind the doghouse, there came the mud puddle. It ran across the grass and jumped right on Julianne's head. She got completely all over muddy. That mud puddle. Tell you what. Julianne ran inside yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, 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 Mommy. Mud puddle jumped on me." Her mother picked her up, took off all her clothes, and dropped her into the bathtub full of water. She scrubbed Julianne until she was red all over. She washed out her ears, washed out her eyes, washed out her mouth, washed out her nose. She even washed out her belly button. Well, you should always wash out your belly button. All right. Julianne put on a new clean shirt and buttoned up the front. She put on new clean pants and buttoned them up the front. And then she sat by the back door because she was afraid to go outside. Well, it's not good she's afraid to go outside, but she also has a lot of new clothes. They must have gone shopping. It must have been a sale. Then she had an idea. She reached into the sink and took a bar of smelly yellow soap and gave it a smell. Yeesh. She took another bar of smelly yellow soap and gave it a smell. Yeesh. She put the smelly yellow soap in her pockets. Again, a problem solver. Then she ran out to the backyard and yelled, "Hey, mud puddle!" The mud puddle jumped over the fence and ran right towards her. Julianne threw a bar of soap into the mud puddle's middle. The mud puddle stopped. Julianne threw the other bar of soap right into the mud puddle. The mud puddle said, "Ach, eek, ugh." It ran across the grass, jumped over the fence, and never came back. Mud Puddle by Robert Munsch. Hey, she's a problem solver. That make you go, have you ever wondered how a battery works? I use them a lot, but I've never thought about how they work. Let's check this out.
What are batteries? Can you imagine a world where all electrical appliances had to be plugged in? Flashlights, cell phones and toys would be tethered to electrical outlets, making them clumsy and inconvenient. Batteries provide portable, convenient sources of energy for powering devices without wires or cables. A dry cell is a common type of battery used today. It basically converts stored chemical energy into electrical energy. In the most basic terms, a battery cell is made up of three components: an anode, a cathode, and the electrolyte. In the dry cell, zinc is the anode, the graphite core is the cathode, and ammonium chloride paste acts as an electrolyte. Due to a chemical reaction within the battery, the anode builds up an excess of electrons. This causes an electrical difference between the anode and the cathode. The electrons want to rearrange themselves and displace the extra electrons in the cathode. However, the electrolyte ensures that the electrons cannot travel directly to the cathode. When the circuit is closed with the help of a conductive path between the anode and cathode, the electrons are able to travel to the cathode. This in turn provides power to any appliance placed along the way. Over time, this electrochemical process alters the chemical makeup in the anode and cathode, and eventually they stop providing electrons. And this is how a battery dies. Batteries provide us with a mobile source of power that makes many modern conveniences possible.
All right, that was a lot of fun. We'll see you tomorrow. Ta-ta for now.